Welcome back, Lincoln currency. Imagine holding a simple brown penny, a coin so common that millions of people have let it slip through their fingers without a thought. But what if I told you that one specific 1969 D penny, yes, the humble 1-cent coin minted in Denver, has been whispered about among collectors, historians, and treasure hunters as being worth a jaw-dropping $88 million? That's right. A coin small enough to fit between your fingertips could carry a fortune big enough to buy luxury homes, supercars, or even a private island. It sounds like a wild fantasy, but the story behind this particular cent dives deep into American minting history, mysterious production errors, and the passion of people who spend their lives searching for the rarest pieces of metal ever made. Close your eyes for a second and picture that, a small reddish coin lying somewhere in a drawer, unpolished, unnoticed, its dull copper surface hiding a secret that could change someone's life forever. The 1969 D penny, minted in Denver, carries the familiar image of Abraham Lincoln facing to the right, just as he has on every U.S. 1-cent piece since 1909. The front, known as the obverse, shows the powerful portrait designed by Victor David Brenner, his initials, the small letters VDB. At the bottom, have been a quiet signature on millions of coins. On top of Lincoln's head, the motto, "In God We Trust," arches proudly. To his left, the word, "Liberty," stands strong, and to his right, the date 1969 glimmers with a small D just beneath it, marking the Denver Mint. The reverse, or back side, displays the iconic Lincoln Memorial, a symbol introduced in 1959 to replace the earlier Wheatears design. When you tilt the coin under the light, you can even see a tiny engraved statue of Lincoln seated inside the memorial, a detail so fine that it feels like a secret hidden in plain sight. In terms of physical attributes, this coin weighs 3.11 grams, composed mostly of copper, precisely 95% copper and 5% zinc, the same metallic blend that defined most U.S. pennies before 1982. Its diameter measures 19.05 millimeters, about 3/4 of an inch, and its thickness barely crosses 1.5 millimeters. Such a small thing, and yet it carries layers of art, history, and value. But the real reason collectors talk endlessly about the 1969 D penny isn't simply its design, it's the rumors, the anomalies, and the mysterious misprints that occurred during its minting. Because somewhere between the Denver presses and the hands of everyday Americans, something went wrong, or perhaps, something extraordinary happened. Back in the late 1960s, the United States Mint was running at full throttle. The 1969 cent production alone crossed more than 4 billion coins. Specifically, the Denver Mint produced over 4.02 billion pieces. That means the 1969 D penny was anything but rare. Yet, within that ocean of copper, a few drops stand apart. Certain coins came out with doubled inscriptions, misaligned strikes, and micro-variations so peculiar that even professional numismatists, people who study and collect coins, spent years analyzing them under microscopes. These doubling errors happen when a coin die strikes the metal twice in slightly offset positions, producing letters that appear blurred or doubled, like a ghostly echo of text. Normally, minor doubling doesn't excite the market much, but the 1969 series became infamous because of one of the most dramatic doubling errors in U.S. history, the 1969 S double die obverse. Now, the coin we're focusing on bears a D mark, not an S, but the fame of that S mint variety spills over and fuels curiosity for every 1969 penny ever made. The 1969 S double die cent, discovered in 1970, showed an extreme doubling of "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and 1969 itself. Only a handful exist today, and each sells for hundreds of thousands, sometimes exceeding $500,000. So naturally, the 1969 D pennies began attracting dreamers and seekers who wondered if perhaps, hidden among the billions, there might exist a Denver-struck twin of that legendary S error. Whether real or mythic, this idea turned the 1969 D penny into a magnet for attention, the subject of endless online searches, magnifying glass inspections, and wild speculations about accidental masterpieces worth more than gold. The story only deepens when you consider the human side of these discoveries. Picture coin enthusiasts crouched under desk lamps at midnight, flipping through jars of pennies, hoping to spot something slightly off, a thicker date, a faint double outline, a glint that looks a bit too sharp. Many of them have spent years searching, driven by tales of forgotten riches. Some claim to have found mysterious 1969D varieties with doubling or off-center strikes, and while few of these claims have been verified, the persistence of the hunt keeps the legend alive. In numismatics, hope is as valuable as metal. Every coin collector knows that moment of heartbeat-quickening suspense when they realize the penny in their hand might not be ordinary. Beyond the thrill of rarity, there's also historical weight in each 1969 penny. It came out in a year when America was changing rapidly: the moon landing, Woodstock, the counterculture, the Vietnam War. These little copper discs jingled in the pockets of people standing at gas stations, diners, and protest marches. They passed through countless hands, carrying traces of that era's energy. A 1969 penny could have been part of a soldier's change before deployment, or a kid's first allowance, or a cashier's till during a time when gas costs barely 35 cents a gallon. Holding one today feels like holding a fragment of America as it was, a time capsule you can actually touch. Think about the hands that have touched these small coins over the last half-century. Every fingerprint, every trace of dust, every faint scratch tells its own silent story. Somewhere among those billions of 1969 pennies is one that never quite belonged with the rest. It might have been struck a fraction of a second differently, might have slipped through an inspection line on a day when a press was vibrating just slightly out of sync. It might still be sitting in an old coffee tin in a grandmother's attic, its surface dulled by years but its secret untouched. The idea that such a coin could exist, ordinary on the outside, extraordinary within, keeps people searching year after year. The Denver Mint in 1969 was an industrial marvel, a symphony of noise and movement. Imagine entering that vast hall, filled with the smell of heated metal and machine oil. Conveyor belts rattled, presses slammed with rhythmic force, and mountains of shiny new cents poured into bins like flowing copper waterfalls. Workers in heavy gloves scooped handfuls, inspected them under bright lamps, then dumped them into sacks stamped U.S. Mint Denver. Each sack held thousands of coins, yet somewhere in that copper flood a single planchet might have been misaligned or double-struck. When you stand in that place mentally, when you hear the clanging thunder of minting, you begin to realize how miraculous it is that any coin leaves the line perfect at all. Out of billions, the idea that one or two could bear a strange beauty born from mechanical imperfection doesn't seem impossible. It seems inevitable. By the late 1960s, coin collecting had become an American obsession. Families watched news stories about rare cents selling for small fortunes, and hobby shops filled with magnifiers and coin albums. Kids would sit at kitchen tables with piles of change, carefully flipping each penny to check the date. Many of those children are older collectors today, still chasing that dream. The 1969 penny became a favorite among them because it was both common and mysterious, easy to find, yet possibly hiding a priceless variation. When whispers about an impossible Denver double die began to circulate, excitement exploded. Letters poured into coin magazines, dealers fielded endless questions, and the myth grew legs. Even though official experts confirmed that only the 1969's double die was real, the legend of the D never died. It's fascinating how myths and numismatics evolve like folklore. They start with a rumor. Someone somewhere claims to have found something odd, then the story spreads, retold and reshaped by each believer. The 1969 penny's supposed $88 million value is part of that folklore, an echo of every treasure story humanity has ever loved. People need mysteries. They need to believe that hidden among the ordinary are tiny miracles waiting to be discovered. That's what keeps collectors awake at night, scanning coin rolls under magnifying glasses, hoping that under the next flip of copper will appear the faint doubling of a letter or a misplaced mint mark. Let's step back and feel the weight of that single cent again. 3.11 grams. Light enough to rest on a fingertip, heavy enough to anchor an entire legend. Copper carries warmth. When you hold it, it doesn't feel cold like steel or silver. It absorbs the heat of your skin quickly, becoming part of you. That human connection is part of why pennies endure even when their face value is almost nothing. In 1969, you could still buy a stick of gum with one. Today, its purchasing power is practically gone, yet its symbolic weight has multiplied 1,000 times. Now imagine this coin's design through the lens of art. Victor David Brenner's portrait of Lincoln wasn't merely a likeness. It was a message of endurance and unity. By 1969, that design had already been in circulation for 60 years, yet it still looked timeless. Brenner's Lincoln isn't stern, he's thoughtful, almost compassionate. The delicate curve of the jaw, the fine lines of the beard, the subtle furrow of the brow, each line etched into steel dies, then hammered billions of times onto copper planchets. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial framed in symmetry, each column perfectly aligned. When light strikes the memorial just right, you see the tiny seated statue inside, sculpted so minutely that it takes magnification to appreciate. That detail transforms the penny from a piece of currency into a miniature sculpture, a micro-museum of American ideals pressed into metal. But every work of art eventually carries the marks of time. Over decades, many 1969 pennies have developed rich patinas, reddish browns, oranges, even hints of violet or blue. Collectors describe these tones as chocolate brown, or faux red. The rarest examples remain bright and fiery, sealed away from air and moisture since the day they were minted. These are the coins that fetch hundreds or thousands at auction, not because of an error, but because they preserve a moment untouched. In a way, they are tiny time capsules sealed in metal, untouched by oxidation, untouched by history's grime. The thrill of discovery often begins with something small. Maybe a person dumps out a jar of change and notices one coin looks slightly different. They feel a tingle of curiosity, fetch a magnifier, and lean closer. The demint mark seems off. Maybe it's filled in, maybe it looks doubled. Their heartbeat quickens. Could it be the one? They rush to a local coin shop, and the dealer studies it under a microscope. The air is thick with anticipation. Most times, the verdict is ordinary. But every so often, something unexpected emerges: a faint doubled rim, a misplaced die mark, a strike so crisp it defies age. Each near miss fuels the fire to keep looking. That endless search is part of what gives the 1969 penny its legend. It's not just a coin, it's a mystery quest. In online forums, collectors share photographs of microscopic anomalies. They debate tiny variations in the thickness of letters, the angle of mint marks, the texture of Lincoln's coat. To outsiders it might look obsessive, but to those within the hobby it's a kind of science, a detective game played in copper and light. And at its heart lies the belief that value is waiting to be discovered, not assigned. Why $88 million? Because human imagination doesn't stop at reason. We crave big numbers to match big dreams. The exact amount might not be literal, it's symbolic, representing the ultimate jackpot, the coin equivalent of winning the universe's lottery. In truth, if a previously unknown major double-die 1969 penny surfaced today and was authenticated, it could realistically sell for millions, maybe tens of millions. But 88 million? That number transforms the story into myth, elevating a cent into legend, turning a collector's fantasy into a parable about hidden worth. Market trends reflect this fascination. Whenever news circulates about a rare coin selling for a record price, searches for 1969 penny value skyrocket. Online marketplaces flood with listings claiming impossible riches, each seller hoping lightning will strike. While most are ordinary, every listing adds another layer to the narrative. The myth perpetuates itself through repetition. In that sense, the 1969 penny has transcended its physical existence. It's now an idea, a symbol of hope and discovery, the heartbeat of numismatics itself. From an economic perspective, coins like this highlight how rarity interacts with emotion. Gold and silver derive value from scarcity and utility. But a penny like the 1969 draws its worth from story, from uniqueness, from the human desire to possess something no one else has. It's art, history, and psychology merged into one small disc. Every collector understands that the thrill isn't just owning it, it's the pursuit, the possibility that somewhere in your change lies a door to unimaginable fortune. Consider the auctions that could follow if such a coin were authenticated. Imagine experts at PCGS or NGC confirming a true double-die 1969 D penny, pristine in condition. News outlets would explode with coverage. Documentaries would appear overnight. The U.S. Mint would issue statements. Private collectors, museums, investment groups, they would all join the bidding. A simple copper cent would become a global spectacle. The room would hum with tension as the auctioneer's voice echoed. "Do I hear 50 million? 60? Until the final gavel slammed at 88 million. Cameras would flash, history would be made, and that single coin would forever change what people believe possible in numismatics. Yet beyond all the money, there's a quieter message. The 1969 D penny tells us that small things matter. In a world chasing big numbers and grand achievements, a single cent reminds us that value can hide in overlooked places. It's a metaphor for human potential, ordinary on the outside, extraordinary within. The next time someone sees a dull penny on the sidewalk, maybe they'll hesitate before walking past. Maybe they'll pick it up, feel its weight, and wonder what stories it might hold. Picture the Denver Mint again, early in the morning of 1969. The sun barely touches the snow-capped Rockies, and inside those massive stone walls, molten copper glows like a sunrise trapped in metal. Workers move with precision, operating machines that strike thousands of planchets every minute. Each heavy thud of the press stamps Lincoln's profile into the warm copper, sending vibrations through the floor like the heartbeat of American industry. The smell of oil and heat fills the air. Pallets of newly minted pennies gleam in bins, each coin identical in theory yet unique in the microscopic details that make 1 in a billion special. In those details hides the mystery of the 1969 D cent, the faint imperfections that might transform one ordinary coin into something worth millions. In that same year, the world outside the mint was restless. Neil Armstrong was preparing to step on the moon. Woodstock's music echoed across New York fields. The Vietnam War divided opinions, and young Americans were discovering both rebellion and hope. Amid all that turbulence, the mint continued its daily rhythm, producing the coins that would carry history through pockets and purses. The 1969 D penny became a silent witness to a turning point in time, as if the copper itself absorbed the decade's spirit. That's part of its allure. Owning such a coin feels like holding a physical fragment of history. When collectors look at a 1969 D penny through a microscope, they don't just see a coin, they see a fingerprint of the past. The texture of the metal, the alignment of the letters, the depth of the strike, all speak of the day it was born. Some coins carry tiny die cracks, little raised lines where the die itself began to fracture after endless strikes. Others show a light doubling on parts of the design, barely visible without magnification. Most of these imperfections are normal. They tell the story of a hard-working mint. But once in a while, an imperfection becomes perfection, a rare alignment of errors that turns a cent into a phenomenon. Numismatic experts often talk about the Holy Grail effect. It's the idea that certain coins, even if rumored rather than proven, create an endless quest. The 1969 D penny sits right in that space. Every few years, someone claims to have found one with dramatic doubling on the obverse, similar to the famous 1969 S double die. Each claim sparks debate, excitement, skepticism, and renewed searches through old coin rolls. Most turn out to be mechanical doubling, an illusion caused by die bounce, but the persistence of belief keeps the legend alive. There's something timeless about that cycle of discovery and doubt. It mirrors humanity's deeper need to seek meaning in tiny details. Let's talk about value in a deeper sense. The market price of any coin is built from rarity, condition, and demand. Rarity defines supply, condition defines quality, demand defines desire. The 1969 D penny checks at least one of those boxes in a unique way. Demand. People crave it, not because they know it's rare, but because they want it to be. That emotional investment drives the legend further. Dealers know this. They see customers walk in clutching handfuls of change, eyes full of hope, asking, Can you check my 1969D? Every time someone asks that question, the story gains another heartbeat. Even beyond the myth, high-grade examples of the 1969D penny hold serious collector value. The Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, and Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, NGC, grade these coins on the Sheldon scale from 1 to 70. A coin graded MS-60 is uncirculated but may show small marks. MS-65 or higher means superb luster and sharp details. The finest known examples, MS-67 or MS-68 red, shine with brilliance, their copper surfaces almost glowing under light. Such coins can fetch thousands because they represent perfection achieved in mass production, a paradox collectors love. In auctions, these pristine 1969D cents often surprise bidders with prices that defy logic, reminding everyone that beauty and rarity dance together even in base metal. But when we whisper about $88 million, we step into a different world, the world of miracles. To imagine a single penny worth that amount is to imagine a coin that transcends collecting, becoming cultural mythology. It would mean the discovery of something the world thought impossible, a Denver minted double die or mule pairing unseen before, perfectly preserved, perfectly authenticated. The very announcement would electrify the global coin community. Social media would erupt, news anchors would hold it between gloved fingers, and the story would spread like wildfire. Historic 1969D penny found, worth $88 million. In that moment, the line between reality and dream would blur, and everyone with a jar of change would start searching. Why does this vision resonate so strongly? Because it speaks to the idea that fortune hides in plain sight. A simple copper cent, overlooked by millions, could hold untold value. It's the same thrill that makes people buy lottery tickets or search for buried treasure. But coins have an added layer of authenticity. They're real artifacts of history, not random numbers. The idea that you could find something so extraordinary in your everyday life, something that changes your destiny, is irresistible. That's why even the faint rumor of a priceless 1969D penny has lasted for decades. Copper itself adds another dimension to this story. Unlike silver or gold, copper feels humble, accessible. It tarnishes easily, turning dark with time, but under that tarnish lies warmth. Its atomic structure allows it to age beautifully, developing patterns of oxidation that make each coin visually unique. Some collectors describe it as metal with a soul. The 1969D penny, in particular, represents the last era before pennies began losing their copper heart. After 1982, when the mint switched to zinc cores, something intangible changed. The older coins feel denser, more authentic, more alive. That's why holding a 1969D penny feels different. Its weight tells you it belongs to another age, when money was still made of something real. Every coin carries a story of human intention and machine precision. To strike billions of perfect cents, engineers designed dies that endured enormous pressure, yet even steel wears down. As dies weaken, letters blur, reliefs flatten, and sometimes doubling appears. In the 1960s, the mint was still improving quality control systems. Machines weren't yet governed by digital sensors, so subtle misalignments could persist unnoticed for days. Somewhere in those mechanical tolerances lies the origin of every rare variety. Perhaps one die in Denver, during one shift, struck a few hundred planchets with just enough misalignment to create a true double die. If those coins circulated unnoticed, some may still rest in the corners of America, coins worth a lifetime's dream. The thought of that possibility changes the way people see pennies. Suddenly, what seemed worthless becomes a potential treasure. It's like walking through a forest and realizing that one leaf among millions might be made of gold. You start to look closer, to pay attention, to appreciate small details. That's the magic of coin collecting. It trains the eye to see beauty and meaning in the minute. Every scratch, every gleam, every tiny imperfection becomes part of the story. And there's a poetic symmetry in imagining that the most valuable coin in the world might be the smallest denomination. It flips our understanding of worth. It reminds us that greatness can hide in modest forms, that miracles don't need to shine like gold to be real. The 1969 D penny becomes a symbol of that truth, a whisper against arrogance, a lesson in humility and wonder. Some say that if the legendary $88 million coin truly exists, it may have already passed through countless hands. Maybe it paid for a candy bar decades ago, got tossed into a piggy bank, or fell between couch cushions. It might be in the bottom of a fountain, mixed with wishes and dreams. The idea that unimaginable value could live unseen in such ordinary places touches something deep in us. It says, the extraordinary doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it hides in plain sight, waiting for eyes willing to notice. Imagine finding that coin. The weight in your palm, the faint red glow of copper under light, the realization that what you hold could rewrite numismatic history. You'd feel disbelief first, then awe, then the trembling joy of discovery. You'd photograph it, send it for grading, and wait through sleepless nights as experts examined every detail. And when they confirmed it, when the headlines screamed the impossible, you'd know that one quiet moment of curiosity changed everything. That's why people keep looking. The story of the 1969 D penny is as much about human hope as it is about metal and mint marks. As the legend of the 1969 D penny spread, it became more than just a collector's curiosity. It turned into a symbol of possibility. Every person who had ever dropped a handful of change into a drawer suddenly felt that familiar urge to look closer. What if the next coin they touched wasn't just another piece of copper? What if hidden among those dull, brown discs was one of the rarest treasures ever minted in the United States? That thought alone was enough to spark imaginations, ignite obsessions, and awaken the quiet thrill that drives people to search, to hope, and to dream. Across the decades, stories began circulating, of ordinary people claiming to have stumbled upon strange versions of the 1969 D penny, of faint doubling in the letters, of unusually crisp detail, of mint marks that didn't look quite right. Some of these reports were genuine errors, minor varieties that added small value, but others were pure illusion, the tricks of light and metal that deceive even trained eyes. Yet none of that mattered. What mattered was the chase. Because in that chase, the smallest coin in American currency became the biggest mystery in its history. Imagine one of those searchers in the quiet of night, sitting at a kitchen table under a single lamp. A pile of pennies sprawled before them, a magnifying glass in hand, the faint hum of hope in the air. They pick up each coin, study it, turn it under the light, and whisper the date aloud, 1969 D. The sound of those numbers carries a certain rhythm, like an incantation, a chant that blends money, mystery, and fate. Hours pass, and still they look. It's not just about finding something valuable, it's about being part of something timeless. The 1969 D penny represents that rare combination of history and destiny, where an object so ordinary becomes a portal to legend. Let's go deeper into what makes a coin like this so captivating. It's not just copper and zinc, it's craftsmanship. The Denver Mint of 1969 wasn't automated the way modern facilities are. Each die had to be prepared, engraved, and installed by skilled technicians. Human hands adjusted the machinery, cleaned the planchets, inspected the strikes. Despite all precautions, dies wore out fast because of the sheer volume of coins being made. Sometimes, when a die started to crack or misalign, it could produce subtle doubling or distortions before being replaced. These brief imperfections lasted only a few strikes, and then were gone forever. Tiny windows of uniqueness in an ocean of uniformity. Now imagine if one of those errors produced something extraordinary. Maybe the die shifted slightly after the first impression, leaving the date doubled, the letters ghosted, the motto slightly blurred. The coins struck in that brief moment would bear that flaw forever. Most would end up circulating unnoticed, their rarity invisible to the naked eye. But the lucky few who discovered them years later would be holding a fragment of minting history. That's what drives the obsession, the possibility that one of those few might still be out there, undiscovered, waiting for someone with patience and vision to find it. Coins like the 1969 D penny remind us how fragile perfection is. Billions were made, yet only a few could ever hold a secret like that. It's a paradox. The same presses that created endless sameness also, by sheer chance, created miracles. That randomness fascinates people. It tells us that even in a system built for repetition, uniqueness will always find a way to emerge. It's almost poetic, how a machine's imperfection can give birth to beauty worth millions. Collectors often say that a coin's real value lies in its story, not its metal. The 1969 penny story has it all: mystery, rarity, controversy, hope. Its legend has survived through generations, passed from father to son, from teacher to student, from collector to dreamer. Each retelling adds another layer of wonder. And though most of the 1969 cents you'll ever see are worth exactly 1 cent, each carries a whisper of that legend, a hint of the impossible. It's that whisper that makes people pick them up, turn them over, and look closer, just in case. Think of all the places a 1969 penny could be right now. One might be resting at the bottom of a fountain, surrounded by wishes tossed in by lovers and children. Another might sit forgotten in an old vending machine, or buried beneath a schoolyard, or hidden inside a cracked jar in someone's attic. These coins travel silently through time, outliving their owners, outlasting memories, and yet still carrying that spark of mystery. Somewhere, one of them could indeed be the coin that changes everything. Even the mint workers of that era couldn't have imagined that their routine labor would one day fuel dreams worth millions. To them, each penny was a product of precision and pride, a symbol of America's stability. Yet the universe had other plans. Through random chance, through microscopic errors, through the tiniest human oversight, a handful of coins transcended their purpose. They became legends not because they were made differently on purpose, but because they were made differently by accident. That's the strange beauty of minting. Perfection aims for sameness, but meaning hides in mistakes. The 1969 penny has become a canvas for imagination. People see in it what they wish life could offer: hidden potential, surprise rewards, the chance for ordinary things to become extraordinary. It's more than a collectible, it's a metaphor for destiny. Every time someone searches through coins, they participate in a larger story, a story about human curiosity and faith in possibility. In a world full of digital distractions, the simple act of holding a real coin, feeling its weight, studying its details, reconnects us to something ancient and tactile. It's a reminder that the world still hides secrets if we take the time to look. When we talk about its supposed value, $88 million, we're really talking about wonder itself. Because money is just a measure of desire. What makes this coin priceless is not the metal, not even the rarity, but the emotion it inspires. It's the dream of discovery that makes people's hearts race, the belief that fortune could appear where you least expect it. In that sense, the 1969 penny is the ultimate symbol of hope in humble form. From an artistic viewpoint, the Lincoln cent design of that period captures the American spirit like few others. The face of Abraham Lincoln, weathered but serene, speaks of resilience. The Lincoln Memorial on the reverse represents unity and strength. Together, they create a dialogue between history and idealism. When you look at the fine lines around Lincoln's eyes, you see not just engraving but empathy carved into metal. And when you look at the columns of the memorial, you see structure and order, values that guided the country through tumultuous times. That's why these coins endure as cultural icons long after their purchasing power fades. Collectors talk about the sound of a copper penny, a sharp, satisfying ring when dropped on a table, different from the dull clink of modern zinc coins. That sound is nostalgia. It reminds people of an era when coins had character, when each one felt distinct. The 1969 penny carries that authenticity, a weight of memory that transcends economics. It connects you to millions of unseen lives, every person who held it, every transaction it witnessed, every pocket it rested in. Holding one is like shaking hands with history. Now imagine a future where that mythical coin is finally discovered. A small-town collector, after years of searching, spots a doubling so perfect it defies explanation. Word spreads quickly, experts are called in. The coin is authenticated beyond doubt, a true 1969 double-die obverse, flawless, brilliant red, preserved like time forgot it. The world reacts instantly. Newspapers, TV, and social media explode with headlines. The coin travels to an international auction, guarded, insured, revered. Bidding begins, and the room fills with anticipation so thick you can almost hear it. The numbers climb: 10 million, 20, 40, and then, unbelievably, $88 million. The hammer falls, and history is rewritten. The smallest coin has just become the most valuable in existence. That moment, imagined or real, is what keeps the legend alive. It's not just about wealth, it's about witnessing history, about seeing a forgotten artifact rise to glory. People love stories of transformation, and the 1969 penny offers that in perfect form, from ordinary to extraordinary, from copper to myth. Whether or not such a coin truly exists doesn't matter as much as the belief that it could. Because belief gives life to stories, and stories give life to dreams. The more you study coins, the more you realize they are windows into time. The wear on a penny's surface reveals how it lived: tiny scratches from decades of circulation, smooth edges from countless. By the time the story of the 1969 penny reached the new millennium, it had already crossed borders, generations, and even disbelief itself. Coin collectors in quiet corners of America, treasure hunters from Europe, and enthusiasts from Asia all spoke of the same thing: a single copper cent from Denver that might be worth more than an empire of gold. The idea seemed impossible, yet it refused to die. That's the thing about legends: they feed on wonder, and the more people doubt them, the stronger they become. In the early days of coin collecting, pennies were treated as humble curiosities, objects of nostalgia rather than fortune. But the arrival of stories like the 1969 transformed that innocence into obsession. People began looking at their pocket change with new reverence, as if each coin carried the heartbeat of a secret. The myth of the $88 million penny became the spark that turned countless ordinary people into explorers of history. And in that transformation lay the true magic of the coin: it connected people through curiosity, through the shared dream of discovery. Imagine a small coin shop on a rainy afternoon in some forgotten American town. The scent of old paper, leather, and metal fills the air. A collector, gray-haired and patient, sits behind a counter stacked with albums. In walks a young boy clutching a jar of coins, his eyes bright with excitement. He empties the jar, and together they start sifting through the copper discs. One after another, dates glint beneath the lamp: 1964, 1971, 1982, and then, suddenly, that familiar number, 1969D. The shop grows silent. The old man lifts the coin, holds it to the light, and examines the letters, the date, the mint mark. For a moment, both breathe as if the world has paused. It might be nothing. Or it might be everything. That fragile hope, that possibility, is what keeps collectors coming back year after year. The penny itself, when you hold it, feels like history pressed into your palm. Its diameter is 19.05 millimeters, its weight roughly 3.11 grams, its composition 95% copper and 5% zinc and tin. That ratio gives it a warmth, a hue that newer pennies lack. The color isn't just metal, it's memory. Under light, it glows a deep, burnished red, a shade that whispers of decades past, of dusty desks and worn-out pockets, of the countless hands it has passed through. Every dent tells a story, every scratch a journey. It's easy to forget that something so small can hold so much time. When the Denver Mint struck those coins in 1969, America was in the midst of transformation. The space race was at its peak, Woodstock had reshaped culture, and the echoes of civil rights struggles still rolled across the land. Amid all that change, the penny remained a symbol of constancy, a reminder that even as the world reinvented itself, some things, like the humble cent, stayed the same. Perhaps that's why the coin carries such emotional weight today. It's not just currency, it's continuity. The mint mark, D, stamped just beneath the date, stands for Denver, but in the minds of collectors, it stands for destiny. That single letter carries the weight of a million stories. The Denver Mint itself has a history carved in precision and pride. It began striking coins in the early 1900s and quickly became known for the clarity of its strikes, the sharpness of its designs, and the sheer volume of its production. In 1969 alone, it struck over 4 billion Lincoln cents. Yet among those billions, whispers began: what if one, just one, held a secret worth more than all the rest combined. Numismatists often describe this fascination as the madness of rarity. It's the human desire to believe that within vast sameness lies one thing truly unique. The 1969 penny represents that dream better than almost any other coin in modern history. Because it forces us to confront a thrilling paradox. How can something so common hide something so precious? The doubling phenomenon, which fuels much of this coin's legend, is one of minting's most intriguing accidents. When dies are created, a master hub impresses the design onto them under tremendous pressure. If that hub presses twice at a slightly different angle or alignment, a doubled die is born. Every coin struck with that die will carry the same ghosted image, a doubling of the letters or numbers that looks almost supernatural. Some doubled dies are so subtle they require magnification. Others, like the famous 1969s, are bold enough to see with the naked eye. The Denver coins, though not officially confirmed to have such dramatic doubling, exist in a space of speculation where mystery thrives. Because collectors have reported faint traces of anomalies, the myth continues. This is where the legend turns poetic. Each person who picks up a 1969 penny and studies it under a magnifier becomes part of a lineage of dreamers stretching back more than half a century. They join a quiet brotherhood of people who believe that beauty and luck still hide in plain sight. And sometimes, belief itself becomes reality. There are real documented cases of people discovering small varieties and selling them for thousands. Those moments are proof that miracles, though rare, do happen. Let's return for a moment to the emotional essence of it all. The idea that 1 cent could be worth $88 million. On paper, it sounds absurd, yet the symbolism is undeniable. The number itself has become a kind of mythic figure, passed around forums, videos, and social media posts like a digital campfire story. It's not about literal accuracy, it's about the feeling it invokes. It tells people that even the smallest, most overlooked thing can hold unimaginable value. And that's not just a lesson about coins, it's a lesson about life. Consider the design itself, the right-facing portrait of Abraham Lincoln, created by Victor David Brenner in 1909, marking the centennial of Lincoln's birth. Brenner's initials, VDB, hidden near the shoulder or beneath the monument on later reverses, are more than a signature, they are the artist's heartbeat, still pulsing in every cent over a century later. The Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, designed by Frank Gasparo, carries its own symbolism. Within its tiny columns, under magnification, you can see a minuscule engraving of Lincoln seated inside. That level of detail speaks to the devotion of the engravers, to their desire to merge art and history in the smallest possible space. To hold such a coin is to hold both craftsmanship and culture. Now picture the moment of discovery, the kind that changes lives. Someone dumps a bag of old pennies onto a table. Dust rises. The sound of metal against wood echoes like faint thunder. They begin sorting, idly at first, until one coin catches the light differently. The date looks bolder, the D sharper, the numbers somehow alive. They lift it closer, heart pounding, not daring to breathe. The world narrows to that single coin, that single moment. Every dream, every story, every rumor suddenly feels real. Whether or not it turns out to be the legendary coin doesn't matter. For those few seconds, they've touched magic. That's the power of the 1969 penny. It turns curiosity into wonder, and wonder into a memory that lasts forever. Collectors often describe a phenomenon they call the hum. It's the subtle thrill that runs through you when you sense you might be holding something special. That hum has been echoing through coin collecting circles for decades, ever since the first stories of doubled dies and rare mint marks began. Each new discovery reignites the hum, and with it, the collective heartbeat of those who still believe that treasure can hide in ordinary things. The 1969 penny, whether myth or miracle, keeps that heartbeat strong. From an economic standpoint, the value placed on rare coins reveals a fascinating truth about human psychology. People don't just pay for rarity, they pay for story, emotion, and meaning. The price tag of $88 million is less about the market and more about myth-making. It's the manifestation of hope's highest currency. It's what happens when imagination meets tangible history. The coin becomes a vessel of dreams, and the dream itself becomes priceless. The 1969 penny also bridges the gap between eras. For older generations, it's a link to childhood memories, when pennies still bought candy, and collecting them meant connection to family and tradition. For younger generations raised in a digital world, it's a reminder that physical things still matter, that history isn't just data but texture, weight, and sound. When a person under 30 picks up a 1969 cent and hears the crisp ring of copper, they're hearing a note from the past, a note that says, "You are part of something bigger than yourself." Over time, the myth has evolved. Each retelling adds new. As the myth of the 1969 penny rippled through the years, it became more than a collector's tale. It became a mirror reflecting humanity's endless fascination with chance. Every decade that passed added new dreamers, new seekers, and new believers. Somewhere between the shimmer of copper and the echo of time, this tiny coin became a symbol of something eternal, the belief that greatness can hide inside the smallest, simplest things. People who had never studied coins before found themselves staring at pennies under magnifying glasses, chasing that faint flicker of history. And through that quiet obsession, the coin gained a kind of immortality that no mint could have ever planned out. There's something hypnotic about the way light dances on a copper surface. It changes with every angle, sometimes glowing like a setting sun, sometimes dull as forgotten metal. The 1969 penny carries that dance like a secret language, speaking to anyone who takes the time to look. Beneath its smooth face lies an untold story of craftsmanship and circumstance. Back in the late 1960s, the Denver Mint was a masterpiece of machinery. Gleaming presses lined the floors, roaring like living beasts as thousands of planchets, a coin before it struck, poured through in a river of molten promise. Men and women stood beside those machines, checking, measuring, adjusting, the scent of hot metal in the air. They had no idea that among the billions of coins they produced, a handful would someday transcend their purpose. The 1969 penny's legend is built on that unintentional perfection. You see, coins are supposed to be identical, but life always finds a way to bend the rules. One tiny slip, a shift in the die, a doubling of the image, a slightly uneven press, and suddenly, perfection gives birth to rarity. When that happens, time itself freezes in metal. The mistake becomes art, and art becomes value. That's how a coin meant for pockets ends up in vaults, exhibitions, and whispered conversations about fortunes. The world loves its accidents, especially when those accidents shine. Think about the path this coin has taken since it was born in 1969. From the mint floor, it traveled in bags and boxes, through trucks and trains, into banks, stores, and the hands of ordinary Americans. It jingled in the pockets of factory workers and students, bought candy, gum, and dreams. Some were lost in couches, some tossed into fountains, others buried beneath decades of change in coffee cans and drawers. Yet, somewhere along the way, people began to suspect that a few of those humble coins were different, chosen, almost, by fate. They weren't merely cents, they were clues to something far greater. Collectors speak often about the whisper, that moment when a coin seems to call out from among thousands, drawing the eye, making the heart quicken. The 1969 penny has caused countless whispers. Even the most skeptical of experts admit that something about this coin refuses to fade into obscurity. Maybe it's the doubling rumors, maybe it's the legend of impossible worth, or maybe it's the deeper, almost spiritual message it carries, that you never truly know what treasure might be hiding in plain sight. Every searcher who has spent a night under the glow of a desk lamp, examining their pennies one by one, knows that feeling. It's hope made tangible. The story of the 1969 penny is also a story of human patience. Unlike digital fortune or instant fame, this kind of treasure hunt takes time. You can't rush it, you can only surrender to it. Every searcher who finds themselves sorting through thousands of coins learns something vital: the value of waiting, the quiet thrill of attention, the art of noticing. It's almost meditative, that process of discovery. The mind narrows to the smallest details, the curve of a 9, the sharpness of a D, the spacing of a letter. You begin to realize that beauty and value are not just in rarity, but in the act of seeing deeply, let's talk about that design again. The face of Abraham Lincoln staring right, eternally calm, eternally wise. His profile is not just an image, it's a philosophy cast in metal. Lincoln's face has watched over generations, his gaze firm, his expression patient. The artist, Victor David Brenner, captured not just Lincoln's likeness but his moral gravity, the sense of resilience that defines the American story. On the reverse side, the Lincoln Memorial stands tall, its lines symmetrical, its columns precise. And hidden inside, so small you might miss it, is Lincoln again, seated at his statue within the memorial. It's art within art, history within history, a microcosm of meaning. That's why this coin isn't just valuable, it's alive with intention. And yet, what makes the 1969 D penny extraordinary isn't just its design or composition, it's its myth. The number that follows its name, $88 million, has become almost sacred among collectors. It's not simply a price tag, it's a metaphor for the limitless potential of discovery. Whether or not a coin has truly sold for that exact figure hardly matters. What matters is that the number exists in the imagination. It gives shape to a dream. When people repeat it, the 1969 D penny worth $88 million, they're not just sharing trivia, they're invoking the oldest kind of magic, belief. In some way, the legend of this penny feels like a prophecy written in copper. It teaches that the most ordinary objects can carry extraordinary power. That's why treasure hunters still search with relentless devotion. They check coin rolls, estate sales, flea markets, and old collections. They hold pennies up to the light, hearts beating fast, hoping for a miracle. And sometimes, in their search, they find more than they expect, not necessarily a coin worth millions, but a sense of connection, a rediscovery of wonder itself. The 1969 D penny also embodies the story of an era when craftsmanship still mattered. The presses, dies, and engraving tools were human-operated, not guided by computers. Every imperfection carried fingerprints of the past. The hum of those machines, the rhythm of striking, the shimmer of new coins cooling on conveyor belts, all of it formed the heartbeat of the mint. Workers might never have imagined that their day-to-day routine would someday birth a legend. Yet history often hides in the smallest details of ordinary labor. A momentary slip of alignment, a shadow between impressions, and fate leaves its mark. And think about how many eyes that coin has passed before, millions of glances, yet only a few truly saw it. That's the poetry of the penny, it hides in plain sight, waiting for someone who still believes that details matter. Maybe that's why the story resonates so deeply in our digital age, where attention is fleeting and everything feels replaceable. The penny reminds us that real treasure is quiet, patient, and often overlooked. It asks us to look closer, not just at coins, but at life itself. If you close your eyes, you can almost hear it, the soft clatter of coins being poured from hand to hand, the faint metallic chorus of chants. Somewhere in that sound is history breathing. Some of those pennies have crossed half a century to reach you. Some might have been touched by people who lived entire lives before you were born. And in that moment, holding a 1969 D penny connects you to a timeline larger than yourself. You're not just holding metal, you're holding memory. Stories like this one endure because they appeal to something universal, our hunger for discovery. Every great myth begins with curiosity. The 1969 D penny taps into that primal need to find meaning in chaos. It whispers that maybe the world still holds secrets that money can't buy, even if this one happens to be about money. That's why even experts, people who know the statistics, who understand probabilities, still feel a tingle when they examine a 1969 D under magnification. Rationality gives way to wonder, if only for a second. And in that second, anything feels possible. Over time, this single coin has become a storyteller itself. It speaks to different people in different ways. To collectors, it says, keep looking. To dreamers, it says, nothing is too small to change your life. To historians, it says, every era leaves traces of itself and what it creates. To artists, it says, even imperfection can be beautiful. And to everyone who's ever doubted their own luck, it says, the universe hides miracles in the mundane. As the legend of the 1969 penny continued to ripple through time, it began to feel less like a coin story and more like a reflection of how humans chase the extraordinary. The tale stretched across generations, whispered between collectors, retold in classrooms, and rediscovered in countless YouTube videos, each one echoing the same sense of wonder that a small copper disc, struck half a century ago, could somehow bridge the gap between history, art, luck, and faith. It became not just a piece of metal, but a pulse, beating quietly through the fabric of American life. To understand why this penny has become such a phenomenon, you have to see it not as an object, but as a survivor. The world around it has changed dramatically since 1969. Empires have risen and fallen, currencies have inflated, technology has rewritten reality. Yet the 1969 penny remains the same weight, the same color, the same face, carrying Lincoln's timeless expression and the silent dignity of its age. It's as if it stands as a monument to permanence in a world that keeps forgetting what that means. When you look closely at the surface of a 1969 cent, you notice something remarkable. Time doesn't destroy it, it transforms it. The bright red luster of freshly minted copper darkens to a deep brown, like wood aging into character. The marks, scratches, and discolorations that accumulate over the years don't erase its story, they write it. Every coin becomes a tiny biography, recording every pocket it's rested in, every counter it's slid across, every hand it's passed through. And somewhere in that microscopic history lies the mystery of value. Why one coin, identical in birth to billions of others, could someday command a fortune. Collectors know that feeling of awe when they first magnify a penny under bright light. The ridges of Lincoln's coat, the crisp curve of each letter in God We Trust, the symmetry of the memorial's columns. It's astonishing how much artistry is packed into such a small circle. The Denver Mint in 1969, working under pressure to produce billions of cents, still managed to create tiny works of art. Each die was meticulously crafted by engravers who spent hours perfecting minute details invisible to the naked eye. Their work was both technical and spiritual, a balance between precision and expression. It's easy to forget that these coins were never meant to be admired. They were designed to circulate, to live among the people, to move endlessly through hands and hearts. That's what makes the legend of the 1969 penny so poetic. Something meant to be ordinary accidentally became divine. One wrong press, one microscopic shift in alignment, and history was altered. In that instant, a coin that should have been identical to billions became unique. The idea that a simple manufacturing flaw could create something worth $88 million is the purest form of irony. It's proof that perfection isn't the source of value, imperfection is. That truth speaks far beyond numismatics. It speaks to life itself. We spend so much time chasing flawless versions of ourselves, our work, our world. But what if the true worth lies in our tiny mistakes, the moments that make us different from the rest? The 1969 penny whispers that secret to anyone willing to listen. Every collector, whether amateur or expert, knows the power of that whisper. They've all felt the electric thrill of possibility while turning a penny over in their hand. Maybe it's nothing, maybe it's everything. That's the magic of it, uncertainty wrapped in copper. Some have spent years chasing that feeling, combing through coin rolls, attending conventions, trading stories and rumors like old sailors swapping tales of sea monsters. But unlike monsters, this legend feels almost tangible, close enough to touch. The beauty of this coin's myth is that it democratizes the dream of discovery. You don't need to be wealthy to search for it. You don't need to travel the world or own a metal detector. All you need is curiosity, the simple willingness to look closer. In that way, the 1969 penny unites people from every walk of life. A billionaire collector and a school kid searching their piggy bank share the same hope, the same spark of wonder. It's a story that belongs to everyone. When historians look back on the age of the penny, they often point out how coins capture more than economy, they capture emotion. Each year's money tells us what people valued, what they believed in, how they saw themselves. The Lincoln cent, more than any other coin, has become America's heartbeat in metal. Its face has witnessed the country's greatest triumphs and tragedies, from moon landings to economic recessions. It has survived wars, redesigns, and changing materials. Yet through it all, it remains instantly recognizable, universally trusted. The 1969D, in particular, embodies that endurance. It's a reminder that history isn't just written in books, it's carried in our pockets. Think about that. A single coin minted when Nixon was president could still be circulating today, quietly passing through lives separated by generations. Maybe it bought a soda in 1975, paid for a newspaper in 1984, sat in a drawer during the 1990s, then reappeared in the hand of a collector in 2025. That continuity gives it a strange kind of immortality. And yet, for all its permanence, the penny also carries the ghost of obsolescence. In modern times, it costs more to make than it's worth. Economists argue for its retirement, and yet the public refuses to let it go. Why? Because of stories like this one. Because people feel that in losing the penny, we lose a little bit of our shared past, the texture of memory, the echo of childhood, the poetry of something so small carrying so much meaning. The 1969D penny, more than any other, is proof that value isn't measured in dollars or cents, but in connection. Now imagine the journey of one mythical coin, the one believed to be worth $88 million. Perhaps it was struck late one afternoon in 1969, as sunlight filtered through the factory windows. Maybe a tiny imperfection in the die left a faint doubling in the date. The press operator didn't notice. How could he, among millions of identical coins? It slipped into circulation, unnoticed, unremarkable. For decades, it lived an ordinary life. It might have passed through thousands of hands, a waitress's tip, a student's change, a mechanic's pocket, before someone finally saw it for what it was. That's the hidden romance of numismatics. Even legends begin in the ordinary. When such a discovery finally surfaces, it changes everything. Experts gather, microscopes appear, whispers turn into headlines. And suddenly, what was once worth 1 cent becomes a treasure that defies comprehension. Collectors compare it to other great finds, the 1943 copper cent, the 1955 double die, the 1969 S variety. Yet somehow, the 1969D stands apart. It feels less like a minting error and more like destiny manifesting itself through metal. But even if that mythical coin never emerges, even if it's only a dream, the legend still holds power. Because dreams, once shared, become reality in their own way. The 1969D penny has inspired people to look, to learn, to care about history, art, and chance. It's revived entire communities of collectors. It has taught patience, attention, and wonder. What more could any object achieve? There's something deeply spiritual about that transformation, how an ordinary coin becomes an idea. It's as if the universe chose this small circle of copper to remind us that miracles don't always arrive in grand form. Sometimes, they arrive disguised as pocket change. And in realizing that, we learn something profound about ourselves, that we, too, are capable of holding unseen potential. Some collectors believe that when they hold a 1969D penny, even a common one, they're touching possibility itself. That's why people keep searching even when logic tells them not to. It's not greed that drives them, it's hope. Hope that they might be the next to glimpse the impossible, to hold history in their hand. That emotion, that pulse, is what keeps the 1969D story alive half a century later. Think for a moment about all the great discoveries that started with something small. A forgotten painting found in a dusty attic, a rare stamp hiding in an album, a misprinted dollar bill tucked in a wallet. The world's greatest treasures often reveal themselves not in museums, but in moments of quiet attention. The 1969D penny belongs to that sacred category. It asks you to look again, to question the ordinary, to believe in what you cannot yet see. By the time the world began to truly understand what the 1969D penny represented, it was already more than a collector's dream. It had become a symbol of time itself. Decades had passed since the coin left the Denver Mint, but its echoes still lingered in the air like the resonance of a struck bell. People who had never touched one, never seen one, even those who barely cared about coins, somehow knew of its legend. It became a story told across generations, woven into the American imagination like folklore, something between truth and myth, logic and miracle. And perhaps that's what makes it so hauntingly beautiful. Because when you think about it, the story of the 1969 penny is also the story of us, of our hunger for meaning, our desire to hold something eternal in our hands. We live in a world that changes too fast, where everything fades, technology, trends, even memories. But the penny endures. It does not vanish, it does not update, it does not forget. It stays exactly as it was, a small, honest reflection of human history, trapped forever in copper, somewhere in the quiet drawers of collectors, in the flicker of online auctions, and in the trembling hands of those who believe they might have found it. The 1969 continues its silent reign. People study it under magnifying glasses, breathing carefully so their excitement doesn't blur their focus. They tilt it under the light, searching for doubling, for that faint distortion in the date that could change everything. And in that search, in that delicate, trembling moment, lies the real treasure. Because it's not just about finding a rare coin, it's about finding the feeling that you're standing on the edge of discovery. It's strange how such a small thing can connect us to so many grand emotions: awe, wonder, patience, destiny. The coin has seen the rise and fall of generations, but what it represents keeps growing. Every time someone new learns about it, every time a kid asks, "Could I have one in my jar?" the legend breathes again. That's how myths survive, not through rarity, but through retelling. The idea that 1 cent could be worth $88 million is shocking, yes, but also poetic. It challenges our understanding of value. Because if a coin can rise from worthlessness to fortune, then maybe everything in our lives carries hidden potential waiting to be recognized. Maybe we, too, are like those copper coins, common on the surface, priceless underneath. The people who have dedicated their lives to collecting coins understand this truth deeply. They don't see their collections as piles of metal. They see them as stories, each coin a chapter, each scratch a sentence, each mint mark a clue. The 1969 penny is like the final chapter of a long mystery novel, the one everyone wants to reach, the one that explains everything. It's the dream find, the ghost treasure that turns an ordinary life into legend overnight. Imagine the scene: a quiet afternoon, sunlight filtering through the blinds. A man sits at his desk going through an old box of coins. He's done this countless times before, but today feels different. His fingers move slower, more careful. He picks up a dull brown penny and wipes it gently with a cloth. Then he looks closer, and there it is. The faint doubling in the 9, the tiny imperfection that has haunted collectors for decades. His heart starts to race. Could it be? Could this be the one? In that instant, the world stops. That's the power this coin holds. It turns ordinary people into believers, skeptics into dreamers, the mundane into magic. It's a reminder that life's greatest treasures are not buried under mountains or locked in vaults, but hiding in plain sight, waiting for the right eyes to see them. And then there's the sound, that delicate metallic ring when the penny hits a tabletop. That sound carries across time. It's the same sound it made in 1969. The same sound it will make 100 years from now. It's the heartbeat of history disguised as pocket change. People who collect pennies often say that when they hold one, they can hear the past, faint echoes of the mint presses, the chatter of workers, the hum of the factory floor. They can almost smell the copper dust in the air. And among all those countless coins, the 1969 stands like a whisper among roars, rare, silent, eternal. Over the years, many have questioned the truth of its supposed worth. Could a single penny really reach $88 million in value? Experts debate it, investors speculate, and dreamers simply believe. Because in the end, the price isn't what matters, it's the idea that something so small can carry such magnitude. It's the thought that even the smallest fragment of history can hold the weight of wonder. Every time a story surfaces, a new find, a record-breaking auction, a rediscovered error, people's imaginations ignite again. You can almost feel the collective heartbeat of millions as they reach into their pockets, their drawers, their childhood jars, wondering if perhaps fortune has been sitting with them all along. And maybe that's what the 1969 penny really gives us, not money, but hope. Hope that luck isn't random, that destiny still dances through ordinary moments, that magic still hides in the smallest of places. It's easy to be cynical in a world that often feels cold and logical. But this coin defies logic. It laughs in the face of probability, reminding us that the universe still holds secrets too strange to explain. It's a mystery forged not by design, but by accident, and maybe that's why it feels so human. We, too, are shaped by chance, by the random misprints of life that make us who we are. The 1969 penny mirrors that truth, imperfect, rare, and unforgettable. As the legend spread across television, documentaries, and online channels, more people than ever became fascinated with pennies. Coin rolls sold out in small towns. Kids asked their grandparents to check old jars. Pawn shops saw a flood of hopeful visitors carrying boxes of change. And even though most of those pennies turned out to be ordinary, every searcher walked away with something extraordinary, the feeling that they had been part of the hunt. That feeling, that spark of wonder, is priceless. The most remarkable thing is how this story bridges time. A penny minted in 1969 connects to people living in 2025. It binds two eras that otherwise have nothing in common. Back then, the world was made of paper, metal, and dreams. Today, it's made of code, screens, and clouds. Yet this coin, unchanged, still carries the same weight in your hand, the same glint of light. It's proof that some things, no matter how small, resist the erosion of time. When collectors talk about the 1969 penny, they often use words like sacred or divine. Not because they worship it, but because they respect it. They see it as a bridge between chance and purpose. There's something holy about its creation, something poetic about the way it accidentally became immortal. It's not the mint that made it special, it's time, curiosity, and the human need to find meaning in the random. Even now, in the age of digital money, the penny continues to whisper its truth. It tells us that value isn't just what we assign with numbers, it's what we feel. It's the story we tell, the history we preserve, the emotion we carry. If 1 cent can hold the memory of a century, then maybe every small thing we overlook carries its own hidden history too. Somewhere, as you listen to this story, there are hands holding a penny right now, maybe not a rare one, maybe just another from the billions, but those hands are connected by imagination to the same mystery. And that connection is what makes the 1969 penny priceless beyond measure. It reminds us that miracles don't always come wrapped in gold. Sometimes, they come in copper, tarnished and unassuming, waiting quietly for someone to see their light. And when that person does, when they recognize what's in front of them, history changes again. That's the eternal loop of discovery. The legend lives, not because it's rare, but because someone, somewhere, still believes. So maybe that's the real secret of the 1969 penny. It's not about wealth. It's about wonder. It's about holding the infinite inside the finite, about realizing that even in the smallest corner of existence, the universe hides its miracles. Because if a penny can be worth $88 million, then maybe everything, even you, has more value than you can imagine. And so, the story continues, every day, every hour, every time someone drops a penny into a fountain and makes a wish, somewhere in the ripples of that wish, the 1969 glimmers quietly, still telling us the same timeless truth, that value, beauty, and destiny are not things we find. They are things we see. Now that you know the story of this mysterious coin, its creation, its survival, its incredible rise to legendary value, let me ask you something. What if that coin isn't lost in some collector's vault? What if it's still out there, moving quietly through pockets and drawers, waiting for someone like you to find it? Think about it. You might have already held it once without even realizing. Maybe it slipped through your fingers years ago when you handed someone change. Maybe it's lying somewhere in your home right now, a little brown coin gathering dust but carrying a fortune in silence. Doesn't that thought send a chill down your spine? Every great discovery begins with curiosity. The kind of curiosity that makes you pause and look twice at what everyone else ignores. That's what separates dreamers from doubters. And maybe, just maybe, this is your moment to dream. Because the 1969 penny isn't just a story, it's an invitation. It's asking you to look closer, to notice the small things, to chase that flicker of possibility hiding in plain sight. So here's what I want you to do. The next time you have a handful of change, don't just drop it in a jar. Spread it out. Look carefully. Turn those pennies under the light. Examine the D mint mark below the date. Study the shape of each number, especially the 9. Does it look doubled, slightly shadowed, or misaligned? Does the texture seem different from the rest? If it does, then maybe, just maybe, you're holding a piece of history. And if you think you've found something special, don't rush. Don't clean it, don't polish it, and definitely don't toss it aside. Place it in a small plastic sleeve or wrap it in soft tissue to keep it safe. Then start researching. Compare your coin with reference photos online, study mint variations, and reach out to trusted numismatic experts. There are collectors and auction houses that will help you identify it properly. Remember, one wrong move can destroy thousands, even millions, of dollars in potential value. But beyond money, think about what that moment would mean. The thrill, the shock, the realization that a piece of American history has been sitting unnoticed in your hands all along. That feeling is worth more than any price tag. That's what drives every treasure hunter, every collector, every dreamer who ever dared to believe that magic still exists in this world. Maybe you're listening to this right now thinking, "Nah, there's no way I'd ever find one." But that's exactly what everyone says, right before someone does. The world is full of impossible stories that began with that same disbelief. Someone out there will find the next great discovery, and who's to say it can't be you? All it takes is one glance, one moment, one coin. Go ask your parents if they have old jars of change stored away. Check your grandparents' drawers, your old school desk, your forgotten boxes of childhood savings. You'll be surprised how often the rarest coins are found in the most ordinary places. Every legendary penny ever discovered started in someone's pocket, not a museum, not a vault, but in the hands of an everyday person who simply chose to look closer. And here's the beautiful part: even if you never find the $1,000,000 penny, the search itself changes you. It teaches patience. It awakens curiosity. It makes you see the world differently, because suddenly, the ordinary isn't ordinary anymore. Every small thing could hold a secret. Every unnoticed object could be extraordinary. That's what the story of the 1969 D penny is really about, learning to see wonder again. Imagine the moment your heart skips a beat as you recognize that tiny doubling in the date. Imagine sending a photo to an expert and hearing them whisper, "You have no idea what you're holding." Imagine standing in a crowded auction room as the bids rise higher and higher, your little copper coin glowing under the lights, the audience watching in disbelief as the numbers climb into the millions. And then imagine looking at that coin and realizing, it's still just 1 cent, but it changed your life forever. That's the dream that drives collectors around the world. It's the same dream that started decades ago when the first rumors of the 1969 D double-die penny surfaced. Back then, people doubted it. They said it was impossible. But then one was found. Then another. And each time, it reminded everyone that miracles don't need to make sense, they just need to happen once. So as you listen to this, I want you to ask yourself, what if the next miracle is waiting for you? What if the next great discovery isn't locked away somewhere, but sitting right there in your own house? What if destiny doesn't announce itself with thunder, but with the soft metallic sound of a penny rolling across your palm? You see, this isn't just about coins anymore. It's about the way we see value, in things, in time, in ourselves. The 1969 D penny teaches us that even something overlooked can become legendary when the right eyes finally notice it. And that lesson doesn't stop with copper. It applies to every dream you've ever buried, every idea you've ever dismissed, every part of your life you thought was too small to matter. Maybe, like that penny, those things are worth more than you could ever imagine. So before you scroll away, do one thing for yourself. Promise to look closer. Promise to never underestimate the small things again. Because in this vast, unpredictable universe, even a single penny can be worth $88 million, and even a single moment can change everything. And so, after all these decades, after all the stories and searches, the 1969 penny remains what it has always been, a mystery trapped in copper, a whisper of history that refuses to fade. It has outlived the men and women who struck it, outlasted the factories that minted it, and surpassed every expectation that anyone ever had for something so small. It sits now as a quiet legend, a reminder that even the simplest things can carry the heaviest weight of meaning. Somewhere in the world right now, another person is opening a drawer, maybe out of boredom, maybe out of curiosity, and they'll pull out a handful of old coins. One by one, they'll turn them over in their hands, and for a brief moment, time will stand still. Maybe that's when history will decide to reveal itself once again. Maybe that's when the next great discovery will happen, quietly, unexpectedly, beautifully. Because that's how legends are born. Not with fireworks, not with fanfare, but with silence, with a single glance, a single heartbeat, a single realization that what you're holding isn't ordinary at all. The 1969 penny teaches us that greatness doesn't shout, it whispers. It waits patiently for the right soul to recognize its light. Even if you never find one, even if you never see it in person, this story will stay with you, because it isn't just about coins. It's about the miracle of attention, the art of noticing what others ignore. It's about believing that value isn't assigned by the world, it's revealed by the eye that truly sees. The 1969 penny reminds us that rarity isn't something we create, it's something we discover. And sometimes, the rarest thing of all is perspective. Maybe that's why this single coin, this single cent, continues to echo through time, because it doesn't belong to collectors or experts or historians. It belongs to everyone who has ever believed that life still holds surprises. It belongs to dreamers, to believers, to the curious hearts who keep searching even when everyone else stops. It belongs to the child who still wonders, the adult who still hopes, the old soul who still remembers what it felt like to believe in magic. That's why the 1969 penny will never truly disappear. It lives in every story told, in every search begun, in every spark of wonder that lights up when someone hears its name. It lives in every person who listens to this story and feels that tiny pull of curiosity in their chest, that whisper that says, "What if?" Because that's how discovery begins, not with certainty, but with curiosity. Not with proof, but with possibility. And maybe that's the greatest value of this penny, not its price, not its fame, but the power it has to make people believe in the extraordinary again. So, the next time you see a penny lying on the ground, don't walk past it. Pick it up. Feel its weight. Look at the year, look at the mint mark, look at the light reflecting off its worn surface. Maybe it's just an ordinary coin, or maybe it's a doorway to history. You'll never know until you look, and even if it's just 1 cent, remember this: everything legendary starts small. Every empire began with a spark, every discovery began with a glance, and every miracle began with a moment of faith. The 1969 penny carries all of that: faith, history, chance, and destiny, pressed into one tiny circle of metal. Some people will say it's just a coin. But you and I know better. We know it's a symbol, a piece of a story that never ends. Because as long as people keep searching, as long as curiosity still exists, the legend of the 1969 penny will never die. It will keep living in drawers, in pockets, in stories, and in dreams. And maybe, one day, when history decides it's time, someone will hold that final legendary coin, the one worth $88 million, and in that moment, they won't just be holding copper. They'll be holding the proof that miracles are real. So until that day comes, keep your eyes open. Keep your curiosity alive. Keep believing that the extraordinary is still out there, hiding in plain sight, waiting for the right person to find it, because the story of the 1969 penny isn't over yet. It never was. And maybe, just maybe, the next chapter begins with you.